Good morning from paradise. My name is Crypto Amaru. Guys, the market is melting down right now, but you know what's crushing it? Gold. Gold is absolutely killing it in the markets right now, and I'm so pleased to have one of the key advisors, the head of BD, Asim, from a project called Apraemio. They're a gold-secured crypto project, and we wanted to have them on to talk about why is gold doing so well, how is Apraemio positioned within that sector, what are some of the use cases of their token. Full disclosure, we are holding a bag of Apraemio. We have a position in their project, so we are bullish on these guys. Happy to have Asim here with us. How you doing today, man? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. It's been a really interesting ride for gold globally, especially with everything going on in the US. So yeah, looking forward to diving in with you guys.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about gold for a second before we dig into the details around Apraemio. Why do you guys think it's been doing so well recently? Like, what do you think generally as gold as an investment?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing with gold is that it's been around for longer than any other fiat currency, right? And the kind of safety that comes with gold is no matter what happens to any fiat, no matter what happens in your bank account, if you have a little gold, the chances are you'll be able to trade that somewhere in the world for something else of value. So recently with what's been going on, we've seen a big hike up, with a lot of the central banks increasing reserves after 2008 crisis. We then seen, even more around every time there was any kind of mention of war, whether it be Russia, Ukraine or anything else. We've seen a lot of uncertainty in the markets. And when a lot of the larger investors, whether it be investment banks, traditional banks, or even higher net worth individuals, the safest thing you can invest in is gold, because it doesn't matter what happens with war. It's not going to affect the equity markets, it's not going to affect the crypto markets. So everyone tends to use that as, it's been known as, the safe haven asset. So with all of the uncertainty recently, we're seeing around the globe in terms of the recessions and economies, and on top of that, you guys will be really familiar with Trump and his love of tariffs. That's kind of scared everyone, right? Everyone's seeing, we're seeing huge falls in the SPX and the SP 500 and NASDAQ that have never been seen before. And, gold has just continued to climb up. Everyone seems to be uncertain of the future. And when you're uncertain of the future, you can invest in one thing that, you can rely on, all reliable, which is, of course, gold. So I think the general state of uncertainty is what I would say is the main reason why gold has done so well over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants Bitcoin to be this digital gold, this store of value, but we're just not to that point yet. It's still more of a risk-on asset. It's new to the institutional finance sector. It's new to the, global government and nation-state sector as far as trying to build strategic reserves, so it isn't quite there. So really the only option, if you're thinking in that mindset, is still gold is the fallback. Silver sees some of that as well, but primarily gold. And we know gold has other utilities as well, from jewelry to semiconductors, electronics, and other things that are providing some value to kind of offset all the gold that is being mined on a daily basis around the world. And I think that's what we're going to get to with the Apraemio, is how are you guys gold secured, and how does that tie into future gold mining or the land, or what's kind of going on there for the people who know nothing about you?
Yeah, so Apraemio is a really different project to what you see a lot on the market. A lot of projects you have that are simply backed by gold, so it's similar to just buying gold. You can buy gold on chain. What Apraemio is looking to do is democratize the process a little bit and allow people to have more interaction directly with what's happening at the mine itself. So Apraemio is partnered with its sister company GGS, which is a really experienced gold mine operator and gold company who has the rights for a mine in Mali. It's 65 square kilometers, and as that mine becomes operational and begins to generate output, 50% of all of the output of that entire mine will go towards continuously backing or securing the gold reserves that we have, and that will then be secured to the token price as well. So it's an ever-growing reserve that's directly linked to the output of the mine. And I'd say that's the one thing that's very different, is that you can kind of get exposure to the crypto space via the kind of token aspect and its various utilities that we'll talk about. But also, as this reserve continues to grow, more and more gold gets added to it. It kind of elevates this floor price and allows users to have exposure to crypto and gold at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, right? Because if you compare it to your standard, say, gold-backed, stable coin or gold, there's a gold secured sort of asset. those projects have had to purchase the gold off the market. They're not really getting true value. They're not getting that alpha, so to speak. Whereas Apraemio, because of their association with the company that owns the mine itself, they're getting gold at a discount, essentially, right? That's kind of how I view that.
Exactly what you're saying. It's kind of like being able to own a portion of the mine without owning a portion of the mine. And again, which one of us has the experience to be able to go to Africa and, source some land and buy a mine like that? So, it's being able to get exposure to a similar kind of appreciation without having to take all of that risk of, entering a market that, we know nothing around. It also means that, it's a much more holistic approach where investors can see where the gold's coming from. They're kind of actively involved in the process of the mine becoming operational, and it's kind of from farm to table, except we've got from mine all the way till tokenization. So it's really interesting like that.
Yeah, man, I love following you guys and your social posts on X, and we'll make sure to post your links here below the video. But just to kind of see that progress of what's happening on the ground in Africa with this mine, I mean, it's incredibly unique. I've never invested in a project that, is quite that arduous. I mean, this is a real world asset as it gets, and I just find it fascinating. So talk to me about the mine a little bit. Like, how did you guys acquire this thing? What's the status of the actually digging the gold out of the ground? This is fascinating. Tell us about the mine itself.
Yeah, so the mine is based in South Mali, in Africa, obviously a very nutrient-rich and resource-rich area of the world. And again, we're very fortunate to have partnered with GGS, who is experienced in the gold industry. So they initially worked in line with the government over the last 8 years plus to acquire all of the licenses, all of the regulatory requirements, all of the local partners, all of the agreements with any kind of locals even living there, to make sure that we're able to operate in a completely ethical and kind of safe way as well, because it can be very dangerous operating in these kind of areas of the world. So having spent all of the resources, so many resources on acquiring all of these things just to make sure that we can remain as fair and transparent as possible, was the kind of initial phase. A couple of years ago, we then launched the initial phase of the token, and that was just to start providing the initial kind of investors that were interested in kind of getting exposure to the crypto space with that as well. The mine we're looking to have operational around the end of this year, beginning of next year, so that means we'll start to pump out more and more gold from the mine directly. And it's been really interesting, the team that we have at GGS includes the COO of the Apraemio project as well, who make regular visits there, have to do site visits for geologists and engineers and these kind of things. And we try and make sure that we're as transparent as possible with showing the entire process. It gives a lot more peace of mind, especially with some of the shady practices, unfortunately, that you see in the gold industry. We want to make sure that we can kind of position ourselves far away from any of that, where you already have a lot of other, like you mentioned, stablecoin projects that there's questions around the reserves. Where's the USD is the most common one. Where's the gold coming from? Like you mentioned, they may be buying gold for different rates than they even say they are in order to get holders. So for us, the most important thing was, okay, we've had to delay a couple of parts of our roadmap because the mine takes a little bit longer to get operational than we thought, but we want to make sure we're fully transparent in that. So we share a lot of the actual content of showing the mine, showing the progression. And again, any investor, one of the best things they can see is kind of like their child growing up, right? So you can see this mine, the early investors from a couple of years ago, where it was, to seeing all of the equipment come in, to see the employees come in, to see us posting updates about new geology reports that are giving really promising results. So it's a really kind of growing project. So it's kind of like, again, you're able to get in a space where you've seen this mine when it was nothing until it's going to be fully operational, hopefully pumping out tons and tons of gold.
Yeah, so the APRA token is live, and you mentioned that the mine won't be fully functional until later this year. So is there current utility for APRA token holders, or for people who want to start speculating and getting into the token now, since the market has seen a pullback across the board? Like, is there some utility leading into the actual gold secured, where the gold's going to be pumping out of the mine by the end of the year?
Yeah, so we are actually looking at having gold in our reserves this year. and we're going to be launching the gold redemption program later this year in 2025 as well. And basically what that means is it's kind of the second stage of being able to have exposure to gold. So, again, you can buy other gold stable coins, get the exposure, but if anything happens in the world, can you get that gold? Maybe not. So what we wanted to do, and again, we've spent the last 5 or 6 years making sure that we're able to do globally, is a gold redemption program. So that means that if you own 10,000 APRA, and that's equal, for example, say to 10 grams of gold, you're able to then actually go onto our platform, onto our website, and redeem that, and you will have your gold sent directly to wherever you want at the time. And that basically means that it kind of creates this additional utility where you can come in for an asset that has a speculative price based off of gold that is being mined, so like you mentioned earlier, almost at a cheaper rate, and then redeem that gold when you want to as well. So actually actualize those gains in physical real gold. We're also working on with a number of Hungarian partners as well, and European partners, primarily in Hungary, but we're phasing out to the rest of Europe to be able to partner with developers to buy houses and property with APRA, and also rent and lease cars as well with their Apraemio token. So these kind of things have all been in the works, but again, the main focus has been, as a lot of our holders know, that we've made clear to communicate that our main focus has been on getting this mine as close to operation as possible, and making sure that everything is as safe and as transparent as possible as well, just so that we can kind of make sure that all investors have a peace of mind in knowing that what they own is actually what we say it is.
This gold redemption program is fascinating to me because it seems like you could even sort of play arbitrage in a sense between the token and the physical gold, where you're buying, like right now, right? The token is probably undervalued. I don't know what the price is right now, but I mean the whole market's taken a big hit, so it's probably down like the rest of everything else. So buy that, accumulate that, and then when it's available later this year, you take some of that and you redeem it for physical gold, which may have appreciated dramatically in value relative to what you spent investing in the APRA. So not financial advice, as ever on this channel, but that's a really interesting opportunity. And I already know what I'm going to be doing with my APRA come later this year. That's pretty.
So the main thing has been, we wanted to give as much different angles to the token as well that hasn't been done before. So for example, like you mentioned, where there's this kind of arbitrage opportunity as well between the discrepancy in price of the gold that's going to be mined. But then the other thing to remember is the reserves themselves that are actually the token is secured to will continuously be growing. So we'll be doing reporting net asset values of the reserves monthly or bi-monthly, and every time you see that, people will be able to see this reserves actually steadily increasing. So even if the value of gold remains stable, for example, the value of gold cannot increase for an entire month. However, because of the mine being operational, the amount of gold actually in the reserves will be increasing. So that means that you'll still see an increase in token value.
That's fascinating, man. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the sort of the bigger picture roadmap for Apraemio. Obviously, the mine is the priority right now, and that makes perfect sense. But you mentioned some other sort of RWA elements that may be added to the bigger picture here. So can you talk about, you mentioned something about cars, maybe something about real estate. Can you talk a little bit about that, just with the understanding that it's going to come later?
Yeah, so the main thing we wanted to do is not only have Apraemio, like we've mentioned, a source of appreciation and a store of value, but it would also be, to create something that users or holders are actually able to use on a day-to-day basis. So people are using, whether it's in Hungary, the forint, or in the UK pounds, or in the US dollars, we're seeing these huge fluctuations, like we mentioned before, in global markets, and like with the kind of uncertainty of what's backing these currencies. So if we can apply Apraemio and APRA to have as many use cases as possible, from buying your groceries or paying your rent, or again, paying for your car, which is what we're working on in Europe, then it means that you can continuously put your fiat funds or your salary, whatever it is, again, not financial advice, into Apraemio, and an asset that'll continuously, slowly appreciate, but then also use it for your bills as well. So you're kind of saving in some sense on a lot of these different aspects. Another thing that's a big part of the roadmap would be the staking. So we're currently working with a number of partners to introduce staking into the ecosystem. And one thing that, again, we want to emphasize that we're trying to do differently is it's not staking where we've got some clever tokenomics that we're actually just going to be feeding tokens back out. And if we see some bank fraud, instead, we're actually looking at tokenizing part of the process that we have, where the 50% of the gold that doesn't go towards the mines, we can actually potentially provide some yield from that directly to token holders that are looking to stake. So it means that you can actually earn yield from a real world source and returns from a real world source. So again, despite what happens in the crypto market and the equities market, the gold business will continue to boom, right? It'll continue to be there. So as long as that's there, we'll be able to share a bit of that yield and a bit of those returns to those people that are involved in our staking program. And I'd say the last thing that we're kind of trying to implement as soon as possible, like you mentioned, is more access. And by more access, I mean just as much access as we can to the mine itself. We're working on a number of things that I can't mention yet, but there's a lot of kind of combining the community with the mine itself in a much more direct way that hasn't been done before in any industry of this type. So we're really excited for what's happening in the next year, and as we continue to work with more payment providers, like I mentioned, and these kind of things, we're looking to really make Apraemio something that can be the fundamental in someone's wallet.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the real evolution of RWA and how it's used in crypto. Obviously, there's the sector of almost, virtual RWA where people are talking about stock shares being digitized, but the real RWA that we've talked about here for now a year or two that hasn't really come to fruition due to the market conditions is the fact of real traditional Web 2 businesses being able to get Web 3 exposure and utilize blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies with revenue sharing, with yield sharing, and with tokenization of equity of businesses as well. And it seems like Apraemio is trying to do all those things for the utility of token holders.
Yeah, exactly. It's not been easy because, again, we're not a token that's been advertising, and our founder Zoltan is a visionary entrepreneur, and we've really focused, and we've all had this culture of being very different from a lot of other tokens that are, we're going to be the next 100x, we're going to be the next 50x, buy now, big bull market coming. Instead, our focus has been, this is a place that is safer than a lot of other places to invest in, especially in the crypto market. Our angle has been to try and bring as much of the security aspects, like we spoke about at the beginning, as much of those security aspects that you can get from gold, and combining it with crypto. So crypto is this really high potential, high risk asset class. Gold is this very safe, usually lower potential asset class. But by combining the best factors of both, that was our kind of main angle. So yeah, it's kind of giving exposure, but also giving exposure in a way that we believe is as safe as possible to those investors that aren't traditionally in the Web3 space. So someone that's completely new to the space isn't coming in and trying to buy the next Popcat and getting wrecked, Instead, they're able to get something that they're able to use, 2, they understand because they understand gold, and 3, is generally safer because of the various aspects and mechanisms that we have, such as the gold redemption and the gold reserves.
Yeah, and I have here the calculator on your website, which is really interesting because a lot of this is dynamic, which means these auto adjust based on gold prices, based on the new geo reports of how much estimated gold is in the mine and other factors. And people who like data can dig into this, and the only thing you can adjust here is how much APRA tokens you want to own, and then it's going to adjust what the current valuation is, about 100 tokens, $13, so that's like 13 cents a token, but what the fair value truly could be if the mine is operational and the geo report is correct, and that's saying, like $71 worth of tokens instead of 13. So people can speculate, or that kind of goes back to the arbitrage you were talking about, Crypto Amaru. If the geo report is correct, and if there's no other utilities, you're already talking about staking and redemptions and some other real world functionalities. This is just based on speculating how much gold is going to come out of the mine at any given time, and this is kind of showing the discrepancy of fair value versus market value, and that is due to crypto market is down, gold price is up, and that's where you're getting kind of that difference in what you could spend now and your potential future valuation of that gold moving forward once the mine goes live by the end of this year.
Yeah, 100%. And the main thing is, I think it's important to mention as well, the geological report is done by a complete third party. It's not done by, we didn't have someone from our team fly out disguised as a geologist to write up the report. Instead, you can see here, we again, in the name of full transparency, as crypto should be, shared an extract from the entire report. I think it's over 100 pages, and we shared it there, and you can see the exact findings from the third party that actually came to the mine and done all the geological reports to give it. You can then also see that there's a difference, there's a discrepancy between what is in the report and what we use as our stated figures, and the reason for that is we wanted to go a bit lower, and we wanted to play it even safer than safe. So, despite what the proven reserves say in the report, in our calculations, we actually go a little bit lower as well, just again, to provide that extra element of security, and we're not trying to, become these shillers in the space.
Yeah, I love it. Under promise, over deliver.
Exactly.
Really appreciate the transparency. I mean, this Apraemio reminds me of a topic that we've been sort of hammering over the past 2 months, and that's this idea of a flight to quality. This crash has essentially cleaned out a lot of the nonsense, a lot of the scammy memes, pump.fun, etc., over leveraged investors, all that. And my theory is that when the market finally does stabilize, rebound a bit, that investors will not immediately, go back in the ultra risky side of crypto. They're going to be looking for something a little bit more conservative, a little bit safer, maybe less volatile, something behind it. And I think Apraemio really checks all of those boxes with the fact you own the mine. It's as RWA as RWA gets. Gold is kind of as safe haven of an asset as it gets. So you guys are really, I think, checking a lot of boxes. And so if my theory is correct, Apraemio is going to be the kind of project that people take a very close look at once they feel a little bit more confident to dip their toes back into the markets.
Yeah, I think anyone that's been in this space for, multiple cycles knows that this happens, right? We always have this kind of expectation in Q1 of how the year is going to go. It under delivers. We have a lot of, black swan events mid-year. Mid-year then tends to range. And like you said, it's actually it's almost an important part of the cycle, right? Is to kind of get rid of all those scams, or get rid of all the kind of lower quality stuff, so that when a lot of the capital then starts flowing back into the market, it's able to flow into the quality projects that are at least able to survive a few months of bear. And what that means for us is that the emphasis is on, like I've mentioned multiple times, is the real world project, which is the mine. The mine's going to be there regardless. If there was no token, there would still be a mine, and the mine would still be operational. I think that's what separates us as well. Is I've seen a lot of projects come and go in this space where they'll be doing a fundraise, or they're doing a pre-sale or an ICO, looking for, we need $5 million so we can acquire some gold. This is kind of the reverse case scenario where we already have the gold, it's already there, we already have the mine, we already have the rights. We're not looking to fundraise for extracting that. Instead, we're here offering an opportunity where investors can come in, invest early, and reap some of the reward along with us. Because again, that's going to be there anyway. So regardless of any bear market, that mine will still be there, and GGS and Apraemio will still continue to operate that and extract that gold.
Very cool, man. I'm loving the concept. Very happy to be on this journey with you guys. I can't wait to redeem some of my APRA tokens for some, chunk of gold. Maybe we'll do a bit of content around that too. Wouldn't that be fun? Like, hey, look at this little gold nugget I got for my, $2,000-$3,000 of APRA that I owned. Very cool concept all across the board. We are going to continue to follow you guys and support you guys. So stay tuned for more content coming out of Crypto Paradise related to Apraemio. Any final thoughts before we jump off, gentlemen?
I was just going to say,
I just wanted to say thanks you guys for having me on. It was really interesting to discuss with you guys. I think we got some really important points, and it's good to see some people that are in the market for the long term and can know how things go on the ground.
Yeah, I was just going to say, of course, we'll have all the links in the description. We shared while we were live your Twitter page, your website. So go through the website. There's even more information. There's videos there. There's information, documentation from blog posts from Yahoo Finance and all these other places. So make sure to check that out. But also for the token investors and speculators, APRA is already on CoinGecko, listed on Poloniex, on PancakeSwap, on BSC Network, which we love. So there is some access out there. This isn't just a hidden token that you only can find on a random DEX. It's on some big platforms, and I'm sure you guys have some more platforms coming soon. And I think we're going to be doing a lot more content on APRA and Apraemio moving forward. So stay tuned up for that if you are liking what you're hearing so far.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Remember, do your own research. Not financial advice as ever, but for where we're standing, APRA is a gem, or maybe a nugget. Maybe we can use that term. Maybe it's a nugget. But great having you on, Asim. Really appreciate your time. And until next time, guys, we'll see you on the beach.
Thanks, guys.